there are many, many experiences with Agunot solving problems in different original ways that we could tell stories about it for essentially forever. But I'm limited because I can only talk about stories where people have given me permission to do so. And I only want to talk about a few cases that tell us something about the approach to the problem. So the case I want to talk about is a woman gets married, and the person had a sefek gear, a case of doubtful conversion from Yeshivat Or Sameach in Yerushalayim, and he becomes insane. I mean, when she first called me up about it, he was institutionalized in Sacramento. And, when people tell me someone's insane, I never believe it until I've. And I went and visited him, and he literally could not put two sentences together. All right? And so I started investigating his past. Let's see whether we can find out about his conversion. Can we nullify the conversion in some way? And the people at Orsmeach, the conversion weren't very cooperative, but they did say that they believed he had Jewish roots. And I said, well, did you try and check this out? Did you do that? No.
Why does it matter if he has Jewish roots?
Well, they're saying it's a sefek gear, a gear because of doubt. So is there a doubt? I mean, what's the story here? Well, he talked to us and this and this. And this. That's, people tell you they're Jewish. You don't necessarily have to believe them depending upon, the circumstances, right? So how are we supposed to look at this guy? So his wife had some information. I got in touch with his family in San Pedro, California. And talking to one of his brothers, he told me two things. One, that he always wanted to be Jewish because all Jews are rich. And so if he became Jewish, he would be rich. That was one thing he told me. And the second thing is we all knew he was going to be crazy. And I asked him information on that, and he sent me to a neurologist. A geneticist. And I talked to the geneticist, and of course got no place, even with letters from the woman giving him, because she doesn't have the right to release her husband's medical records and so on. But he was a very observant Catholic. I realized that from things I saw on the wall. And Pope John Paul II, who was the Pope at the time, was very, very good about getting for Jews. If someone wanted to convert to Catholicism, but they had a Jewish spouse, they had to arrange the get before he would allow a conversion. So I contacted the guy's parish priest, and the three of us had a meeting.
Is that actually needed? I mean, the conversion's not legitimate.
No, but I'm saying then if he's not living a Jewish life anymore, or she isn't living a Jewish life anymore, it creates problems for the spouse being married to someone that's,
I see.
I see. So he eventually told me that, without naming the disease, that he had a genetic disease that was going to cause him to be insane. And it's a genetic disease, so it's a pre-existing condition that she knew nothing about. She had no knowledge of why he was currently in the state he was. So, one of the basic points, the woman can't have known about the condition before the marriage, right? And it has to be such a condition of such a nature that no normal woman would marry such a person with this condition, and so on. And so those two were, the other two are as well, but those are the major points that we must have. She would have had to have left him immediately after she found out, but she never found out until long after they were living separately about this. So it seemed to me we could say this. And shortly after, Rav Druckmann was in Los Angeles, and he signed with me, but he said he wanted to talk to Rav Mordechai Eliyahu about it. And Rav Eliyahu came back and said that he wanted to know who else this woman had asked and what they had told her. So I called her up, and she said she had talked to two rabbis. One was a dayan in Los Angeles. When I called him up, he started yelling at me, "Why are you getting involved in my tikim, my files?" It's a horrible way. It's a very common among dayanim to refer to their cases as their files and not relate to the person as, this is the person in front of me. How am I dealing with this person?
She had reached out to you.
Yeah, she had reached out, but and then as he's yelling at me, he says, "I already asked Rav Eliyahu, and he said that she was a surah." And
What does that mean?
Prohibited.
Sure. Okay.
This isn't that. And I said, "I found information that you didn't know about. Can I tell you?" No. Couldn't talk to the guy. Rav Eliyahu's response to that is, "I've never seen the shaila before," which I can quite easily agree with, because the fact that there was a genetic disease here is of critical importance to create a heter. Without that, there is no heter. And then the other person that the woman had called was Rav Mordechai Tendler, Ramesh's grandson and a shamash for the last 18 years of his life. And I called him up and I asked him about it. He says, I don't remember the case at all. It's just very easy. Real Rabbanim get hundreds of shilas a week. You don't remember some things you remember, but the vast majority you don't remember. And I said, "Is it possible that you said that she was prohibited?" And he said, "No. The most I could have said is that I can't find a heter." And I told him, I said, "I believe I found a heter. Can I tell you?" And he says, "No." And I go, "Why?" And he said, "Whenever my grandfather, Moshe, got a psat from a Beit Din that they were asking for his haskama, his agreement to, he would never read the psak. He would write a letter, Ashrei Chelo L'Reisa, great is your power for the Torah, but he never said he read the letter.
Is that not to bias his
And
thought?
no, he never read their opinion, because right now there's a Beit Din that says she's muteris. If I read the opinion, there could be a problem. Right now, there's no problem.
That's why Rav Mordechai Eliyahu told you to speak to.
Let's find out what people said here. Moshe is saying, Moshe was, if there's a heter, I don't want to look at it, because there can be a problem. Right now, there's no problem. He told me that whenever Reb Moshe had a shaila on Mamzeris or Agunos, he would answer within a day, always. And his first year, he was a Shamash Reb Moshe. He had already seen this. There were, number of shailas. They were not. Reb Moshe wasn't lacking in people asking him difficult shailas. And they get a packet from the Beit Din in Paris. It's almost 30 pages of chakiras and metzias, examinations in the situation of the genealogy of this one Balas Tshuva, as to whether she's a mamzeres or not. And it sits under Moshe's desk for a week, and he doesn't write it anything. And in those days, he didn't write much anyway. He would dictate to Mordechai what to write, because the arthritis in his hands was very bad and hurt him, it pained him. And so he would dictate to Mordechai what to write, and then he would sign it. But it sat on his desk for a week, and nothing happened. And Mordechai says, Zaidi, if they're waiting for an answer, we should write something. And Ramesh said later. Another week passes by, and Mordechai says, L'chvod Rav, they're waiting for an answer. We have to give them something. And he said, it can wait. Another week goes by, and he says, Mordechai says, L'chvod Rosh Yeshiva, it's time that we wrote something on this. And Ramesh goes, Yingala, I've looked at the Shaila from every angle that I can, and I can't find a heter. After a while, when I don't respond, they'll ask another Rav, and another Rav will find a heter. But I don't want anyone to ever be able to say that I said that she was a surah, that I said that she was prohibited. That approach, right? Actually, I told the stories, and that story was, he told me when he said he didn't want to hear my heter, right? Someone, you have a heter, I'm happy. I don't want to.
Is the goal to find the heter?
Yes, in certain areas of halacha, mamzeris and agunos, the goal is to find a heter. Darchecha, darchei noam, the ways of the Torah are pleasant. We, as Rabbanim, are required to try and make people's lives as easy as possible. The Aruch HaShulchan used to tell everyone that came to him for shimush, everyone that he gave smicha to, that you should know any shaila that's asked of you, it's mutter until you can prove it's aser. Which is like an exact opposite of the way people think about things today. What I talked about last time from Reb Chaim Falaji, that when you're looking at Naguna, you look at her as if she were your own daughter, right? You're going to work at it until you find a solution. And, I mean, it's between the two world wars. There was a woman that's husband had disappeared in combat in the First World War from Poland. And she had gone to Reb Shlomo David Kahana, who is known already as Aviha Agunos, the father of all the Agunos. And he was involved in tens of thousands of cases. And she went to him, and he said, I can't find the heter. Go to Pesach Frank in Yerushalayim. And she traveled to Yerushalayim, and she goes to Pesach Frank. And he hears her story, and he's very upset because he goes around the house looking for money, demanding money from everyone in the household to give her. And he says, this woman does not realize how bad her situation is. I can't figure out a heter for her. The least I can do is give her some money. And famously, the family said that was the only case of Aguna that Ritzi Pesach did not have a heter for. So, this is something that we do work on, do try and create, if at all possible. I mean, there are, of course, situations where it's not possible, but in general, the goal in these situations is to allow people to live their lives. And as you see from what Rabbi Moshe did and as many other, Rabbanim, if you go through the history of Psak, that we work to ease people's lives. I mean, nowadays, we culturally, unfortunately, this has changed. I think a lot of that is because we have too many people pretending to be dayanim that are not actually qualified either in the knowledge base or in the human feeling base of what they have to be able to do the job. You have there are Hasidic stories, and I've heard this about different rabbis, and may have occurred multiple times. Maybe just different Hasidim tell the story about the Rebbe. I don't know, but the Rebbe stops seeing people in the middle of the day, tells the shamas, no, I'm not seeing anyone else today, so that's it. And he's alone in his room for the whole day. Later, when the shamas asked, Rabbi, what happened? He said, this person came to me with a difficulty, and I couldn't feel it. I can't give them a bracha or anything unless I can feel what their pain and suffering is. With the number of cases that we have today, which is clearly much more than classically existed. There's a machlokas, for instance, how you spell the month Iyar in a get, whether it's with one yud or with two yuds. The Ramah says so therefore we have a minhag not to write get in Iyar, but if for some reason you have to write a get in Iyar, we write it with two yuds. Right. So
what about marriage contracts?
That doesn't matter.
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Wooden puzzle, wouldn't
puzzle?
Wooden puzzle, that would be fine. But most of Iyar is during Sphira, so it's. But so I was once sitting with Rav Nata Greenblatt, one of the great Talmidei Chachamim of the United States, great Masadri Gittin, flew all over the place. He did kashrus for the OU, so while he flew away for kashrus, he would do Gittin all the various places he went. And there was singing in Iyar, and we did, 15 Gittin in 2 or 3 days. And I made a joke to him when we were at a break at one point about, we don't write Gittin in Iyar. And he laughed and he said, listen, I'm Masader more Gittin in the month than the Ramah did in his entire lifetime. If I didn't write Gittin in Iyar, I'd never catch up. It's like we're not in the same type of situation. So we get more of these very difficult problems, and it makes it very difficult to feel each person's difficulties and suffering. But that's one of the things that's demanded of the dayan, to be able to feel what's going on with people, feel what's happening to them, and be able to take that and turn it into something constructive that will allow them to continue living their lives. But that's a critical, an absolutely critical thing in the way a dayan is supposed to approach people, and it's something that we also talked about last week.